and pool swimmers. Now, y'all are crazy because you have gators in your lakes. And anytime that I see somebody in the lake, I immediately assume they're on acid. It would just be the only logical explanation of why somebody would be in a lake with a dinosaur in it. And I'm from the Seattle area. We don't have that. But there's two. Now, let me see your hand if you are a lake swimmer. Who loves swimming in lakes? Yeah, you're crazy. How many of you like swimming in pools? You like to see the bottom. Yeah. Because all it takes is one little in a lake. And I'm like, that's a dead body, or in Florida, a gator. I'm convinced. All it takes is one little brush on your foot and you're freaked out. And so because I don't like that feeling, I stay out of the lake. Why? Because fear dictates the parameters of my life. That's why when the Bible says that the beginning of wisdom is to fear God. What the Bible's saying is that, because this is really important, when you start fearing God, you stop fearing everything else. See, when you fear God, everything else is like a joke, huh? Like you fear God, and then like that little guy over there, you're like, he's cute. But if it's not trust, if you shouldn't, trust fear, then what should you trust? And now, in a context like this, we know the answer is God, huh? It's Jesus, right? We should trust Jesus. And I wish I could say that, man, that was true of my life all the time. I wish I could say that I trust Jesus so much that he informs every single decision that I make. But oftentimes, I don't trust Jesus. I trust something else. And it's kind of like the Old Testament. You ever read the Old Testament, which if you dare, you ever like read the Old Testament and you just read it and you go, that looks exhausting. You ever like read the Old Testament? Like they had sacrifices. In fact, I'm convinced I would have been the worst pastor in the Old Testament. I'm so glad that I am a past New Testament pastor. I'm so grateful for that. Because they had to like kill things. Now, I gag when I brush my teeth. Like I'm up in the mirror like, anybody else? Where are my people? You're like trying to brush your tongue, trying to be, hygienic. There's no way I could be a pastor in the Old Testament. I'd have been like, I quit. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go into cabinetry. I don't know. I ought to quit. And you ever read that and you go, that looks exhausting. I wonder sometimes how many people would look at your Christianity and go, that looks exhausting. And Jesus said things like, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus said that I'm going to exchange this heaviness that you have and I'm going to give you a levity. I wonder how many times, why does Christianity feel so hard? Man, why does Christianity feel so difficult at times? It's because I don't know that we're always following Jesus. I think too many times we're following a formula. And this is my point, my only point tonight. I preach in one-point messages because it's all I can remember. It's this, is that life direction is first found in a person rather than a formula. Life direction is first found in a person rather than a formula. And just for fun, I Googled. I love Google, man. Google magic I love Google. We live in a day anymore where you can't even like lie in the right way anymore. You know what I mean? You ever like somebody tries to, see, when I grew up, you could make up stuff. You can't do that anymore, right? Because you say something and people just Google it. No, you're a liar right here. You see, I have it right here. You can't even lie anymore. What kind of world is this? But I was Googling just for the sake of this message, and I was wondering, I want to look at different formulas. So I literally just typed up on Google, do this for fun, it's fantastic, 3 ways to, and I just read some ones that popped up. Here's some things that popped up. Number 1, 3 ways to get more respect. That sounds nice. 3 ways to reduce stress. 3 ways to access joy. And just for fun, I said, no, 3 ways is not enough. I need 4 ways to do stuff. And so I typed up 4 ways to, and I just kind of read it. And here's some that came along the screen is 4 ways to be kind. That sounds nice. Some of you, check that one out after this, right after. If you're not laughing or smiling. Here's another one, 4 ways to get unstuck. I don't know what that means, but it sounds fantastic. I love the last 2. 4 ways to spend money. And then the last one, 4 ways to stop being poor. See, the reality is, man, you name it, there's a formula for it. Man, whatever it is, you can find a formula that's going to fix it. The problem is that your formulas don't take into account the external circumstances that are going on in your life. And so what you try to do is you try to plug in the formula and you try to plug it in, but it's not taking into account all the other things that make your life unique, that make your situation special. And so the disciples had this formula. So the disciples are kind of a bunch of nobodies, right? And all of a sudden this Jesus of Nazareth says, hey, follow me, right? And they drop everything and they start following him. The fascinating thing starts to happen. A lot of people start following them. And all of a sudden there's a lot of people following Jesus. And now, these guys that had nobody following them have a lot of people following them. And they turn around and are like, oh my gosh, this is pretty cool. This is pretty exciting. And then Jesus does something that really blows their mind. He starts doing miracles. He's like going into funerals and ruining them. He's like walking on water. I mean, he's turning water into wine, keeping the party going. I mean, he's doing crazy, crazy stuff. And this is what they start thinking. How do we market this? Wait. How do we figure this out? You see, the disciples thought that Jesus was going to develop an earthly kingdom. They thought that he was going to overthrow the government and then sit on the throne, and they were going to kind of be his governing body. They were so excited because they were kind of a bunch of nobodies, and all of a sudden they go, oh my goodness, this is perfect for us. How can we leverage this? And then Jesus blows up their formula by saying, where I'm going, you can't go. No, Jesus, in fact, where you're going, I thought that's exactly where I was going. And Jesus, no, where I'm going, you can't go. Wait, no, I thought we were going to like set up a government, and we were going to be cool, and we were going to have like the gear, and like ride in, Air Force One, and like this was like fantastic. We had it all planned out. And Jesus says, where I'm going, you cannot go. You see, all along your life, if you live a formula lifestyle, Jesus will always disappoint you. Jesus will always blow up your formula. Jesus will always cause your formula to come crashing down. But here's what I love. Here's the great hope. In verse 1, this is what it says. So he blows up their formula. They're in disarray. And he says this, let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. So it all starts with trust, huh? Jesus says, no, I'm blowing up your formula. Oh my gosh, what do we do now? No, it's okay. Relax. Trust me. Listen, there's going to come seasons, and I guarantee you've already had them, seasons in your life where things don't make sense. There's going to come times when you're looking and you're going, this doesn't fit into my neat Christianity that I have been handed. This doesn't make sense. I thought 2 + 2 always equaled 4. And the interesting thing about, in fact, we had one of those moments this last year in our nation, huh? I remember we walked into my office, and my administrator had told me, man, there was a shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. Gunman walked into an elementary school and began to just shoot point blank elementary students and kill them. I just go, what? And she begins to unpack it. I remember I went and sat down in my office, and I'm sitting down in my office and I'm trying to digest this. I kind of go online, I start looking at news stuff, and you start seeing the body count of children going up and up and up and up. And it just rattled me, man. It rocked me. And I remember I went home and I'm sitting down on my couch, and I was just, probably like a lot of you, just stuck to the news all day and all night. And I'm sitting there at like 9:30 at night, and I'm just watching this, and tears are welling up in my face. I'm going, what kind of world? What kind of world do I live in? That a grown man would walk into an elementary school, start shooting kids. Blows up my formula. And the first thing we start doing is we start questioning God and how he works. We start going, wait, what the heck? How does this all make sense? And I remember I was sitting there, literally, I'm sitting there, and I'm listening to all this, and this lady who is talking says something that just all of a sudden my spirit grabbed onto. And I go, oh my gosh, that's it. And she said this. She goes, she was one of the first ones on the scene, and she said, this feels eerily similar to Columbine. Statement she said, when I showed up on the scene, people are running everywhere. She said, this feels eerily similar to Columbine. Now, a lot of you might be too young to remember the Columbine shootings, but in about year 2000, there was a school shooting where 2 gunmen walked in and they killed 12 people, 12 students and a teacher, killed 13 people. And it was kind of the first of its kind. Unfortunately, now we hear about this stuff kind of every year, every couple years. But it was like the first of its kind. Nobody had ever really seen anything like this before. And I was a sophomore in high school when it happened. And this was just a crazy incident. And when she said it felt eerily similar to Columbine, it just rocked me. And here's why it rocked me, because I remember I was 17 years old. And a guy named Daryl Scott came to my area to speak. And I had never been to church before in my life. I didn't grow up in church, man. I did not grow up in church. I just had never been to church. And the girl that I was dating at the time asked me to go to church. Or actually, it wasn't even a church. It was a college. And this guy was going to be speaking. I didn't even know what he was going to be talking about. It's just the Columbine shootings was such a big deal at that time that it was kind of national news. And so I went. And a guy named Daryl Scott began to talk about his daughter's faith, Rachel Scott. And he began to talk about her journey with Jesus and how much she loved God. And I remember sitting there, and it was like an experience like I've never felt before. And at the end, he says, raise your hand if you felt something like you never felt before. And I'm like, man, I'm tripping out. Like this screen and this tripping me out, right? I was like, I'm tripping out. And he says, okay, come up here and we'll have people pray for you, and you can accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. Now, I had never heard that terminology before. So I'm like, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I don't know, dude. But my hand goes up, and this guy named Ryan, crazy, first name Ryan, last name Ryan, taps me on the shoulder. I don't know. I don't know. Taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, I'll take you up there if you want me to. And I prayed with him. I gave my heart to Jesus. My life has never been the same. And so when the lady on the newscast says this feels eerily similar to Columbine, I went, I get it. Even things that God doesn't cause, even things in life that blow up our formula, God's able to use. Even things that would come into your life and shatter your formula. The Bible, see, when you read the Bible, you have to understand that it is a there will come a day kind of book. See, when you read the Bible, you got to understand that the Bible is laced with language that says, no, there will come a day when there's no more tears and there's no more pain and there's no more heartache. No, there's going to come a day when you're going to get a new body. And it's going to be heaven. It's going to be amazing. The Bible's filled with there will come a day language. And if you live with these formulas and you don't understand it, no. I live and serve a there will come a day God where God's going to make all things right and all things will be good and all things will be as they should. That's the God I serve. And so I love this. When she said that, my spirit leapt. And I said, God, I know that this wasn't your plan. I know that you didn't cause this, but God, I know this. I know you can use it. And God, I know that you can get glory from it. And so I started going, man, how are you going to do that? And I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see the glory that God's going to get out of a tragedy like that. You see, listen, there's going to come things in your life that are going to be so far outside of your scope, outside of your control. And God, and this is, I love what he goes on to say. Because first he says, trust me, relax, calm down. And then he says, in my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go and prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, eventually you'll be with me. See, the thing I love about a context like this, a church like this, this is just outrageous. This is crazy. This is crazy. The thing I love about a place like this is that you know how many people had to get here early tonight?